Hello and welcome back to Laz Unleashed with myself, Laz Michaelides, and today's going to be a short, quick reaction to the 2-0 loss that Tottenham suffered against Chelsea last night. And where to start? I mean, it was a really, really bad performance. Probably the worst attacking performance of the season. So let's start there. Let's start with our attackers. We just had no creativity. Now, I don't think it helped that we didn't have Maddison starting because even though Maddison has been really poor in form recently, I suppose ever since his injury, when was it? I think it was it end of last year or towards January or something. He's been off it, and so not having him has been a big enough issue. But then to also not have anyone who can replace him and kind of find those balls that we're looking for. I mean, at the start of the season, I kind of thought, in those first 10 games, it looked like we had options. I remember Richarlison played out the wing and Son went down the middle, and that was good because Richarlison was pacey. He was good at getting balls in. Son was much better going through the middle. And then we also experimented with Kulusevski playing in that number 10 role and feeding in Johnson, Richarlison, and Son. I like to also think that Bentancur, when he played with Juventus, numerous times we'd see him ping those balls in and do those little through balls that would eventually find their way to the striker and get a goal. But we just haven't seen any of this happen over the last however many games. The second half of this season has been terrible. And this performance epitomised it, really. I think this performance actually epitomised the season. Because Romero and Van de Ven, I think arguably, despite some of the performances we've had and some of the defeats we've suffered, I think Romero and Van de Ven have probably been the players of the season in terms of consistency, always putting in good performances. Obviously, for Van de Ven, bar that one against Newcastle, where he did just have a shocker. But everyone has a bad game, and one bad game in 35 isn't something I'm gonna let affect my opinion on a player on. But yeah, Romero and Van de Ven, now they've been solid, but the rest of the team has just looked non-existent in this second half. Pape Sarr's start to the game yesterday was awful. He couldn't make a pass. He couldn't keep the ball. Bissouma as well. I mean, they had such a cohesion at the start of the season. They were working really well together, and it looked like our midfield was absolutely solid. And it just seems to the form has just gone out the window. I don't know what's happened, but both of them are not looking good. Højbjerg came on and was just terrible as well. We've gone from having, I think it is fair to say, and this isn't overreaching, but from those first 10 games this season, you could have said at that point that Tottenham had one of the best midfields in the league. We were running it, and in the first few games, everyone was like, "My God, can you imagine if we keep this up with Basuma playing the way he was, Sarr playing the way he was, Bentancur coming back from injury? He had a good few games, but it just doesn't look stable anymore, and I just don't know what's going on." Add to that the fact that Emerson Royale on the left was awful. I mean, I expected all three of them to come off at half time. Bissouma, Sarr and Royale, and nothing happened. And to be fair, whatever Ange said at half time had an impact because we played better in the second half, but it was still far from good. The only thing we looked better at in the second half was defending and shoring up that midfield a bit, just to give us, not to make us look so exposed and weak at the back. But yeah, my God, it's just such a poor performance. A lot of people like Brennan Johnson, and I do too. He's a nice kid. I suppose ultimately he's a good player, but he's a nice guy. But I just can't help but feel that he's not going to do anything when he gets the ball. When he gets the ball, my immediate opinion and my thought is that, oh, he's going to lose it, or he's going to take a bad touch, and that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be the way that I'm looking at him going, oh, is he going to control it? Oh my God, he controlled it. Well done. Like, fantastic. And it just shouldn't be this way. And Son, he just looks like he's he is completely out of form, but I'm not even seeing him getting involved in the play much anymore. In recent games, so, I mean, look, we're in the last 12 games, as in we got three thirds of the season. 10, 10 and 10. Obviously, there's the others, but I'm just splitting it like that. The first 10, Son and everyone else was on fire, all working together. The middle 10, Son, when the others were having a bad game, Son was picking up the slack, and he was making things happen when the others couldn't. When Kulusevski had a bad game, Son was on. When Richarlison had a bad game, Son was on. But these last 10, Son himself has looked like he's just not been on it. And that's the problem because we can't score. We were on this crazy run of. We beat our own record, didn't we? We beat scoring consecutive games. I'm not going to say the number because I don't remember what it was. But it's just gone out the window now. 4-0 to Newcastle, no goals. 2-0 to Chelsea, no goals. And our goals against Arsenal, let's be fair, we're pretty lucky. Bad pass from David Raya and a penalty. So we are just not scoring, and it's a big problem because it's not like we have injuries in that area. I mean, I get it, Timo Werner's out and Manuel Solomon's out, but neither of those players are the kind of player that I would put as Tottenham's starting forwards. I think what we had last night was our best attacking line. I'd put Richarlison on the wing, Johnson on the other wing, Son through the middle, and, well, yeah, because Kulusevski as well, but I'm forgetting about Maddison. But whether you want to put Maddison into the midfield or into that attacking part, I think those 4 players we had there, bar Maddison, is the best we have. So it's not like we're plagued with injuries. This is what we have. And it's going to be really, I mean, these last few games, I'll get to that in a minute, but I don't know what we do in the summer because we've paid money for Johnson. I think we are gonna buy Werner, aren't we? Richarlison's ours. You know, what I'm saying is, it's not like some of these players we can send back to their clubs and say, oh, we're not interested in them, let's get someone else. I don't see how we're going to have the money to buy what we need, which is a replacement for Harry Kane. We need a number 9 who's going to score goals because yesterday, the next part I'll talk about is the crossing, which was just dire. I mean, awful. Like, Pedro Porro, normally his balls are quite good and he whips them in, but yesterday he had so many missed crosses that just went out for a goal kick or something. On the other side, Royale as well. I mean, Royale, he came in because Udogie's injured and so's Davies, but Johnson as well. Johnson can't cross that well, and it's just like, even when crosses were hitting the right space, we got no one of any height in there to do anything. So yeah, really, really disappointing attacking. We're looking no creativity, no finishers, and teams have just figured us out in terms of what we do when we attack. When we push forward and we just overload them, they just sit back. They put a low block in, sit back, and we can't do anything because we try and do these little intricate passing. I mean, Richarlison, he didn't have a terrible game yesterday. He was trying to make things happen. He was doing loads of little flick back heel passes that were working. And I hate that kind of passing when you're losing because it's like, focus on getting the ball there first as opposed to doing something cool. But Richarlison was pulling them off 9 times out of 10. But we just couldn't get in behind the lines. They just held that low block and they did it really well, to be fair to them. But this is what teams are doing to us now. They've figured us out. They're going to low block and then wait to get us on the counter and then hope that, Kulusevski fouls them on the edge of our penalty area and they get a free kick and they can score, because set pieces is the next thing I'm going to address. I saw an interesting thing when we've seen obviously recently how Vicario has just been completely pressured at corners. And I saw someone saying, it was on TalkSport or Sky or something, someone was saying, why doesn't Vicario just go down more often? And I'm not an advocate for diving, but at the same time, I think there's give and there's take. Players are standing in front of him and stopping him commanding his area. Now, it's not a foul, it's not illegal, but it is cheeky. So Vicario, in the same way, can cheekily go down if he feels any pressure from the player backing into him. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to get that foul. So I'm not advocating for diving. I'm advocating for Vicario to go, cool, you wanna push me and keep me in one position and block me. The minute you put any pressure on me, I'm going to go down. And that might be how we stop the corners going in, because he just doesn't look confident at corners. And the same thing with him. Those first 10 games, he looked like he was going to be the keeper of the season. And to be honest, I mean, there's probably a bit of a biased comment, but I'd still put him in the conversation in terms of saves and actual saves he has pulled off. I would put him in the conversation as one of the best keepers of the season. But he's come undone at set pieces, and we've seen this. I think 14 goals we've conceded now from set pieces, and I think half of them at least are down to goalkeeper the Vicario not coming out and patrolling his area or controlling it. So that's a bad part. But, we thought the problem was exclusively corners until we get the 2 free kicks last night. just disastrous. I mean, the first one, Cucurella basically holding Porro, so he wasn't able to get to Chalobah. So, I mean, there's a call for a foul, but I'm not going to be one of those fans that says, oh, that goal should have been disallowed. Pedro's got to be stronger, and his defence, his teammates have got to cover him and see that he's being blocked. He was essentially on the two last players, so someone should have come round the back and marked Chalobah. So that's the defending's fault. The other one, I mean, who was it? Was it Højbjerg and Son, who were the first who could have got to the rebound from Palmer's free kick, and they just both watched the ball go in. Now, I expect that. I don't expect it. I understand it from Son. He's a forward. He probably shouldn't even have been that far back. He should have started to look at, going on the break or marking someone who was making a run. But, with Højbjerg, you expect him to do better there. You expect him to at least make an effort or do something, So it's been really, really poor. And these last few games have been terrible. And I'm not looking forward to the games we have coming up. We've got Liverpool and Man City. And then Sheffield on the final day, I think. So Sheffield are out of it. But, there's always to play for pride. Even if a team's gone down and relegated, you never see them have like a 8-0 shocker on their final day. They'll always just want their final game in the Premier League to be worthwhile. So It's really poor because we need to let's address top four now. Top four is probably as good as gone. I think there is a 5-10% chance we get it. Villa are on 67 points. We're on 60 points. We still have one game in hand on them, I believe, or maybe that was yesterday's one. But ultimately, we need to win all of our remaining games and hope that Villa slip up, which I just don't think is going to happen. I haven't had a look at their sort of fixtures, but I just don't see that happening to that extent. Villa have been solid and they've had some poor results, but ultimately, I don't think they're going to slip up. So I think now, and this is something I wasn't even thinking about a few weeks ago, we've got to look behind us and we've got to look at the likes of United and Newcastle and even Chelsea coming up and basically overtaking us, which is a really scary prospect considering we thought we had top four in the bag, or at least top five. But even now that looks dodgy. Newcastle have got to play United, I think, so that opens the gap for Chelsea. So there is a game or two in there where they're fighting amongst themselves, which helps us. But it's not good. So what I'll do is now I'll ask myself, do I want European football? Now the immediate and obvious answer is yes, because of the money that comes in with it, and because of the. Listen, I think it's always good to go and play other teams who are at your level. If we are at Europa League level, then it's good. And it's experience to go out and play these clubs. And as much as I hate the Thursday night games, and I'd much rather have the Tuesday and Wednesday games of the Champions League, European football is European football. And we get to sort of see and judge ourselves amongst, I say the elite, but you guys know what I mean. The best group of teams in Europe. Oh, there he is. Give me. We get to judge ourselves on them. And I think, I don't know, I'm asking myself, would I rather Ange had another season just in the Premier League? But he's had that. And we've only played about 38 games altogether with the cup games too. And we just look disinterested. We just look like we don't know what we're doing now that it's coming to the crunch end of the season. And I'm worried about what adding Europa League to that could do, because, our squad depth isn't great. And even the players he has now are not fully, it doesn't look like they're fully, I don't want to say invested, but it doesn't look like they're fully understanding of the kind of football Ange wants to play. Because the moment we had a great solid starting 11, and they those first 10 games, they bought into Ange's philosophy. But then as soon as the injuries happened and we had to replace people and pick and choose, and now we have a different forward line every game for the last few games, it doesn't feel like this message of Ange is getting through to the whole squad. So I'm worried that, we end up going and winning a Europa League game 2-0 at Olympiacos, and then come back and getting drubbed 5-0 by Fulham, because, that's when the squad depth comes in. And I don't know if we're going to be able to do that yet. It all depends on the summer we have and the transfers and the players we bring in. But I mean, ultimately, if you gave me the choice, I would say give us Europa League. don't love it. I don't want it, but I think Ange needs to fully. I think he needs to fully understand and grasp the job that he has, and that will involve playing European football. That is where we want to be, playing European football. So if he gets Europa League, that means he's going to need to adjust and bring in other players so that we have the squad depth ready to compete in these competitions. Now, as for Ange Postecoglou himself, I loved it yesterday seeing him absolutely lose it at the players, because I feel like all of us were like that. And so often this season, when we've played badly, we've just seen him kind of sat there, no smile on his face, hands in his pocket, but that's it. Yesterday, I feel like we could see what he was saying. He was saying, stop playing backwards. And he pointed, he was like, you press. Like, it seemed, it was kind of obvious, although in the interview he took it and blamed himself. It seemed he had an understanding finally, and he was showing it, that the players actually were at fault here. They did not do well enough. It seems they didn't execute his plan. So yeah, it was a tough one yesterday. You know, you always want to beat Chelsea, and we haven't won London derby this season, which is quite worrying. I don't remember the stat. It's not like the first time in how many seasons where we haven't been able to beat at least one of the London teams. It's Chelsea, West Ham, Arsenal. So it was very disappointing to come away, and that's our season over in terms of that statistics. So that's not going to change. But yeah, I mean, knowing us, we're going to go and lose to Liverpool, lose to Sheffield United, and beat City, and hand Arsenal the title, because that would just be so Spursy. But yeah, I don't see any of these games go. I don't see. I see us perhaps getting. See, we should beat Sheffield United, but with this poor run we're on, if we lose to Liverpool and we lose to City, Sheffield United want to go out, you know, on their shields with a big performance. You never know what they could do. So I'm really not looking forward to the last 3 games. But overall, again, like I said in the last video, I will do an end of season review, but I don't think this is all doom and gloom and this is all terrible. This is Ange's first season, and I wanted us to finish in the top 10. We did not look good last season under Conte, or the last few seasons, and I thought it was only getting worse. I wanted us top 10 finish. It looks like we're going to stay in the top 10. So for me, as the first transitional season, job done. Top half finish, establish a style of football, get Ange knowing his squad, knowing who he can trust, who he can rely on, and then we go into the next season having hopefully had a good transfer window for Ange, for him to get the players he wants in, and for us to work over the summer as a team and building so that we can put performances like last night behind us. But we'll wait and see, and I'll mention all this in my sort of end of season review. So yeah, thank you for joining me. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to stay up to date with my content. So you guys take care, and I'll see you very, very soon.